My daughter said she can watch from the live stream. Joan Mitchell, retired librarian and mother for 37 years, didn't argue. Hannah, the bride whose bedtime stories I once read every night. I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. She shoved the livestream link like a substitute hug and left me ghosted. Evelyn's thumb hovered over the email notification for too long. Bianca and Carter wedding invite? The subject line read, as if dressed in silk, but delivered with a slap. She tapped it open. Already bracing, there it was, a templated pastel invite with digital confetti and a golden button labeled View Livestream. No address, no handwritten note, just a cold, blinking link. An incoming text followed before she could process the sting. Bianca, you can just watch from the live stream, Mom. It'll be easier all around. Evelyn read the line twice, her hand tightening around the phone. Easier all around, as if she were an inconvenience to be managed, like parking or floral arrangements. She stood alone in the dining room, the autumn sun crawling across the hardwood, brushing over the photos still lining her hutch. There was Bianca at 5, grinning in pigtail. Bianca at 16, arms folded after a debate win, and now getting married. Apparently without room for her mother in the room, Evelyn called Carter's number, hoping for sense. He picked up after 2 rings, his voice warm but hesitant. Carter, she began carefully. Am I reading this right? A live stream? He sighed softly. Evelyn, Bianca thinks it'll be smoother without family politics in the mix. She didn't mean to hurt you. Please? Don't take it personally. Evelyn swallowed something hard. It's not personal. It's structural. Carter said nothing. Then, I just want everyone to get through this without explosions, okay? She didn't reply. She couldn't. That evening, while making herself tea she didn't want, Evelyn returned to the email. It had a download link for a printable version of the invitation. On impulse, she printed it. She fetched the scissors from the junk drawer, trimmed the edges, and slid it into an old envelope she still had from Bianca's high school graduation invites. She held it a moment. Paper still meant something. Later that night, with a fire low in the hearth and a calmness she didn't trust, Evelyn opened her laptop. She began browsing real estate listings. Not out of pettiness, she told herself, but clarity. What else did she have now? Not a guest seat. She narrowed her search to Bianca's city, just outside Charlottesville, then clicked the tab labeled Commercial Properties. A banner caught her eye. Historic garden venue, available for immediate sale. She clicked. The images were unmistakable. Willow trees, cobbled paths, a grand hall with white rafters. She'd seen it before. Bianca had posted photos from a venue tour 2 months ago. Dream location, the caption had read. Evelyn stared at the screen. She picked up her phone and dialed the agent's number without thinking. Her voice came out calm, practiced. Yes, she said. I'm calling about the garden property listed near Ravenshire Road. I'd like to know if it's still on the market. The agent's voice lit up with opportunity. You've got good timing. We just got a price reduction this week. Evelyn leaned back into her chair, her heart pounding with something that wasn't rage, but close. Wonderful, she said, reaching for a pen. Let's talk about next step. Agent confirms the venue is available, and Evelyn drops a purchase offer. They said it wasn't for sale, but I stood in front of it with cash in hand. The oak trees lining the venue drive whispered, as Evelyn stepped out of the Uber, coat cinched, handbag tight against her body like armor. A brisk wind tugged at her scarf as she walked toward the wrought iron gate, bearing a white sign, Available Historic Ravenshire Venue. The real estate agent, mid-30s, efficient, greeted her with a clipboard and cautious optimism. Mrs. Harmon? He asked. Ms., she corrected softly. Eyes locked on the ivy-wrapped veranda, they toured the space in silence, her heels echoing on polished wood floor. The ceremony lawn looked smaller in person, but the air carried a kind of dignity. It was a space with memory. Evelyn could already imagine tables of veterans for fundraisers, poetry readings near the stone fountain, and widows laughing in its kitchen again. They entered the sunroom. The agent cleared his throat. I'll be honest, we had a verbal hold from a younger couple, but their financing fell apart. Sellers willing to move fast. Price is $1 son $3 million. Evelyn nodded once, already knowing. Cash offer. I'll cover closing. His eyebrows lifted, surprise flickering across his polished professionalism. You already have funding in place? I do. She handed over a small folder, bank statements, trust liquidation details, Proof of funds. When she walked out 2 hours later, her name was inked on the first draft of the offer letter. She stood by the fountain and allowed herself one long breath, half disbelief, half ignition. Her phone buzzed. Bianca, is this about inheritance or spy? Evelyn stared at the message, then locked her screen without replying. It wasn't about either. It was about not fading into the background while someone else folded the narrative. It was about showing up even if no one asked her to. At home, she laid the purchase documents on the dining room table. James, her husband of 35 years, was in Nashville visiting his brother and wouldn't be back for 3 days. She hadn't told him yet. She didn't need an argument rooted in fear. Not when she was this close to reclaiming herself. She called Lorraine instead, her closest friend, retired school principal, the kind of woman who could see fire through smoke. Tell me you didn't, Lorraine said after a beat. I did, Evelyn replied. Then unexpectedly, good. Evelyn blinked. You're not going to tell me I'm being petty. You're not being petty. You're drawing a line. You don't owe Bianca attendance. You owe yourself dignity. Evelyn smiled into the silence. It felt clean, not spiteful. Good. Hold on to that. The next day, the agent sent her a photo of the venue's gates, now bearing a crisp white placard reading, Sold Future Owner, E. Harmon. Her name was in brass. It gleamed. She didn't post it. She didn't say a word, but someone else did. Hours later, her phone lit up with an Instagram notification. Bianca Events. My fiancé's mother bought our venue. Just wait till you hear this one. Evelyn stared at the caption, then the comment section already swelling with emojis and firestorm reaction. Words like drama, messy, sabotage. But Evelyn didn't flinch. She simply turned off the phone and poured herself tea. She'd already paid for the space. Now she'd learn how to hold it. Bianca posts the photo online. My fiancé's mother bought our venue. Her post said drama. I walked in and redefined the stage. Evelyn stepped through the arched double doors with the keys still warm from the agent's hand. The space smelled of citrus polish and old stone, a contrast that reminded her of boarding schools and symphony hall. Sunlight spilled through the leaded windows onto the hardwood floors. Every echo of her footsteps felt earned. This wasn't a wedding venue anymore. Not just. It was hers. She moved slowly, trailing her hand along the rail of the spiral staircase. The ceremony lawn looked different from this angle, more honest, less filtered than Bianca's Instagram snapshots. Evelyn could already picture fundraisers blooming across the courtyard, veterans' breakfasts under the willow, story circles on Tuesday nights. The space would breathe purpose again. At the corner gate, a black SUV pulled up. Carter stepped out. His tie was half loosened, and his eyes were sharper than usual. Evelyn, he said, voice tight. Carter, he gestured toward the new sign. This is real then? It is, she answered calmly. You bought it? I did. He blinked. You know what this looks like, right? I know what it is, she said, walking past him toward the garden. The difference matters. He didn't fall. Inside, Evelyn unrolled the blueprints that came with the property stored neatly in a drawer by the old bar. She made notes for the city permit office, improvements to the kitchen, a lift installed for wheelchair access, extended arch trellis for community event. This wasn't just about ownership. It was about reinvention. That evening, at an awkward dinner at James's favorite steakhouse, Bianca laid down her fork with audible precision. Why are you so fixated on optics, Mom? Evelyn looked at her daughter across the table. You mean presentation or perception? Both. You bought my wedding venue like it's a power move. I bought a space you didn't invite me into. That's not power. That's preservation. James cleared his throat. Carter reached for his water glass, then put it down without drinking. Bianca scoffed and turned back to her steak. By midweek, Evelyn had emails from local decorators, 2 florists and a jazz trio she remembered from her fundraiser days. She replied with specific dates, opening the venue calendar for booking. But one date remained unspoken for their original wedding reservation. Wednesday morning, Evelyn's inbox pinged. Subject line, Notice of Termination, Contract Reassignment. Sender, M. Kimball, Wedding Planner. Due to the recent change in venue ownership and shifting client demands, I can no longer continue planning services under these terms. Underneath, a short note from the planner. I'm sorry, it's too hostile now. Evelyn read it twice, then opened the venue software and cleared Bianca and Carter's reservation from the system. The date was available again. That night, Carter received an email. The subject line was cold, precise. Venue cancellation, Ravenshire Historic Garden. He read it 3 times before calling Bianca, whose face paled as she saw the forwarded notice. "This came from my mother," he said. Bianca didn't respond. She just sat still, her mouth parted slightly, like she'd just realized the chessboard was real, and that the pieces had been moving without her. Carter receives a cancellation notice for the wedding venue from Evelyn. She confronted me in full wedding gear, thinking I'd crumble. I held the space. The first thing Evelyn saw through the rain-slicked glass doors was Bianca's train, white, full length, glimmering with tiny crystal beads that shimmered like cold defiance. Bianca pushed through the doors of the venue's main hall without knocking, Carter at her side. Her veil was clipped back, but her posture said war, not celebration. She hadn't even changed from the final dress fitting, almost as if she'd chosen to make her point wrapped in silk and lace. Evelyn was standing in the middle of the room, clipboard in hand, reviewing flooring samples with a contractor. She didn't flinch. "You're making a mockery of this," Bianca snapped, her heels echoing across the wood like a judge's gavel. Carter stayed silent, his expression unreadable, but his eyes flicked between the women like a man caught in a courtroom without counsel. Evelyn calmly set the clipboard down. "I was under the impression this space was no longer of interest to you." Bianca's jaw clenched. "You bought my venue. You canceled your reservation because you made it toxic. You sent me a live stream link," Evelyn said, voice still steady. "You erased me before I stepped into anything." Carter opened his mouth, then closed it. "You're trying to shame me in public," Bianca hissed. "You want people to feel sorry for you. You always have." Evelyn stepped forward, not aggressive, just solid. "I'm not interested in sympathy, Bianca. I'm interested in truth. You may still have your wedding here under one condition." Bianca laughed, sharp and quick. "This should be good. You involve me in the planning. I attend as your mother, not as a spectator, not through a screen." Carter finally spoke, his voice quieter than both of theirs. "This was supposed to be ours, Evelyn, just ours, without any sideshow." Evelyn looked at him, really looked. "You're marrying a woman raised by absence and expectation. The least she deserves is a day where love doesn't hide behind screens or edits." Bianca's face softened for half a second, then hardened again. "This isn't transparency, it's control." "Then walk away," Evelyn said. "But know this, you can't ask for legacy while erasing your lineage." Bianca turned on her heel, the train catching slightly on the doorframe. She stormed out. Carter hesitated. His face looked older than it had days ago, creased by something more than stress. He walked a few steps toward the exit, then stopped. "Judith told Miranda not to include your father's name in the program," he said, voice cracking. "She pressured her to change the family layout. That's why Miranda ghosted. It wasn't you." Evelyn's breath caught. "Your mother did that. She thought your father didn't fit the narrative." Miranda resisted, but she eventually folded. "And then you bought the venue. So Bianca knew?" She suspected, but she didn't stop it. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment. Carter reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone and showed her a text. "Miranda's original apologies still unsent. They told me to rewrite your family. I couldn't do it, but I also couldn't fight all of them." He turned the screen off. "I don't know how we fix this." "You don't," Evelyn said gently, "but you acknowledge it." He nodded once, then left. That evening, Evelyn sat alone in the study, sifting through archived emails when one popped up under a strange subject line. "Next move, knowledge of intent." The message was brief, almost clinical. "We are aware of your legal maneuvering. Expect a formal response. Your next steps are anticipated." Evelyn stared at the screen, heart slowing, not in panic, but preparation. Evelyn finds an encrypted message. "We know your next legal step. They treated the wedding fund as entitlement. I treated it as leverage for dignity." The next morning, Evelyn stood before the cedar filing cabinet in her home office, pulling out the manila envelope, marked Bianca Trust, St. It felt heavier than it used to. Inside were the documents she and James had drawn up when Bianca was just out of high school. The fund was sizable, meant for education, homeownership, or in this case, the wedding. It had been untouched for years, waiting patiently under Evelyn's name as primary trustee. Now it waited no more. She read through the fine print, line by line. One clause repeated, disbursement at discretion of primary trustee. That was her. She didn't call James. She didn't need another round of hesitations or soft diplomacy. This wasn't an attack. It was accountability. By noon, Evelyn had filed paperwork revoking Bianca's beneficiary access, placing the trust under review for charitable reassignment. A second document halted the escrow transfer meant for venue upgrades. The money would sit frozen until further notice. A minute later, her phone buzzed. Carter, why destroy all we built? Evelyn replied without flinching. Because I built more than bricks, you built a wall. An hour later, Lorraine arrived with coffee and a legal pad. She didn't ask questions. She simply sat across the table, glasses perched low on her nose. We need to talk about the grandchildren, Evelyn said, sliding her friend the updated trust documents. Lorraine skimmed the first page. You're cutting Bianca out entirely? No, I'm shifting the focus forward. This isn't punishment. It's protection. They worked late, reassigning portions of the fund directly into an education account, managed separately for any future grandchildren, overseen by a neutral trustee. Bianca wouldn't be able to touch it, but her children would be safe. Evelyn made sure of that. That night, Evelyn sat on the back porch with a glass of chilled white wine, her fingers tracing the rim. She didn't feel triumphant, just anchored. She watched the wind move through the trees and thought of all the things her daughter would never understand, until she was older, maybe ever. The next morning, a package arrived. Inside, a check wrapped in embossed stationery. The sender, Bell's Planner Services. Arrival to Miranda's firm. A sticky note was attached, for Evelyn Harmon, to restore what was denied. Call it a contribution to P. The memo on the check read, Church contribution, in honor of family unity. Carter's name was typed underneath, but unsigned. Evelyn stared at the dollar amount. It was nearly the same as the canceled trust disbursement. She didn't deposit it. Instead, she logged into the Twin Oaks Foundation website, a literacy nonprofit she'd supported for decades, and initiated a charitable gift. In the comment box, she typed, in honor of boundaries, clarity and legacy that serves more than one name. By evening, another message lit up her phone. Bianca, you're pushing us away. Is that what you want? She didn't answer. Later that night, Lorraine called. You okay? I'm clear. Evelyn said. Good. Lorraine replied, because clarity's what you owe yourselves, not leverage. A check arrives. Bell's Planner offers to restore funds as church contribution. She sent restitution, tagged it family unity, but unity can't be bought. The check sat on Evelyn's desk for 2 full days, neatly folded, crisp, untouched. The memo line, church contribution, in honor of family unity, stared back at her like a line from a bad sermon. Not even a signature from Carter, just an implication. Let this be enough. Evelyn finally picked it up, turned it over, and ran her thumb across the watermark. It was real money, but what it tried to buy felt hollow. The doorbell rang. It was Lorraine, holding her usual iced Americano and an envelope of donation forms. Still haven't cashed it. Lorraine asked, eyeing the check. No, but I know where it's going. Evelyn slid the check into a new envelope, already pre-addressed to the Twin Oaks Foundation. She added a note inside. This contribution is redirected to serve those who cannot demand apology, nor afford erasure. You're sure? Lorraine asked. Once it's out of your hands, it was never meant to stay in mine, Evelyn said. Unity isn't transactional, and legacy doesn't wear a hashtag. Later that afternoon, she texted the donation confirmation to Bell's planning firm. No commentary, just documentation. Then she blocked the number. If they wanted optics, they'd have to manage without her. Her phone vibrated a few minutes later. Carter, you gave the check away? She stared at the message, then slowly typed, yes. It wasn't mine to keep, and it wasn't yours to disguise. His reply came 10 minutes later. One line. I'm sorry, no defense, no excuses. Not even a period. She didn't reply. Not yet. That night, as Evelyn walked through the main hall of the venue, she paused by the mirror near the entrance. The sold sign had been replaced with a custom plaque. The Ravenshire Garden. A space for reflection, gathering, and reclamation. She liked that word, reclamation. It had weight. The following morning, another envelope arrived, this one less polished. A thin letter, folded once. It was a demand letter. Header. Notice of legal intent recovery of funds. The body was direct. We, representing Bianca Harmon and Carter Levinson, request restitution of funds given in good faith. Distribution without approval may constitute misuse under family trust conditions and emotional distress statutes. Evelyn read it in silence. Then she walked to the file cabinet, pulled the updated trust documents, and laid them next to the letter. Lorraine joined her that afternoon, as Evelyn drafted her response with bulletproof clarity. Every date, transfer, and legal clause, lined up like an accountant's dream. You really think they'll escalate? Lorraine asked, frowning over the edge of her glass. They're not trying to win, Evelyn said. They're trying to intimidate. Well, Lorraine smiled thinly. They forgot who taught Bianca how to argue. That evening, Evelyn posted a public message on her venue's social media page. It read, "A donation made to a nonprofit for literacy and inclusion cannot and should not be treated as leverage. I will not engage in emotional extortion disguised as family tradition. Kindness is not revenge, but it can be firm." The comment section lit up. Mothers, widows, women from every background chimed in. Yes. We see you, venue mom. Not all moms stay silent. Bianca didn't reply publicly, but Evelyn noticed she removed Carter's name from her Instagram bio by sundown. Evelyn receives demand letter, suit threat, recover the check. She filed suit claiming emotional and reputational harm. I filed receipts. The courthouse smelled like worn carpet and old coffee, neither offensive nor comforting. Evelyn stepped through security with a small leather folder pressed to her chest, her heels tapping slow and steady against the tiled floor. She didn't look over at Bianca and Carter seated near the plaintiff's table. She didn't need to. The tension in the room carried its own shape, thick and brittle. Bianca wore beige, strategically soft, performatively neutral. Carter sat stiff, hands clenched in his lap, jaw tight. Their lawyer, young and sharp-suited, adjusted his tie and whispered something to them that Evelyn couldn't hear. She didn't flinch when her name was called. Judge Mendelsohn glanced between both parties before speaking. This is a preliminary fact-finding session, not an evidentiary hearing. Let's keep tones respectful and points clear. Ms. Harmon, you may begin. Evelyn stepped forward and opened her folder. She had receipts, literal and metaphorical, email logs, financial transfer records, screenshots of texts with Carter and Bianca, a notarized letter from the Twin Oaks Foundation confirming receipt and use of the donation, a certified copy of the amended trust with dates and legal signatures. Even Lorraine had submitted a sworn statement regarding the trust's revision conversations and Evelyn's intentions. As Evelyn spoke, the courtroom changed. The narrative didn't unravel, it reframed. She did what someone in the back row whispered, as Evelyn outlined how she diverted the check into a community literacy program already named in Bianca's childhood honor. She didn't spend it, came another murmur. Across the aisle, Bianca's attorney faltered, asking for a short recess. Judge Mendelsohn denied it. Plaintiffs claim emotional and reputational damage, the judge said, turning to Carter. Yet the financial contribution was redirected, not misused, and flipping through the documents. Not solicited under duress. You were under no obligation to send that check, were you? No, Your Honor, Carter admitted quietly. Bianca shifted in her chair, her hands trembling beneath the desk. Evelyn stood still, unshaking. They weren't trying to recover money, she said clearly. They were trying to reclaim control. Lorraine, seated in the back, nodded to herself, hands clasped in her lap like a woman at church who already knew the ending of the sermon. As the judge wrapped up the session, he announced a continue. I will not allow this courtroom to become a battleground for unfinished emotional business. He said, further filings will require stricter evidence standards. The court is considering dismissing with prejudice, unless compelling cause is presented. As Evelyn turned to leave, a hand touched her elbow. It was Michael Torres, reporter for the Charlottesville Herald. Ms. Harmon, I'm running a story about community venues, but there's another angle floating around. Your story. It's making the rounds. People are calling you venue. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Is that a compliment or a critique? He smiled. Both, apparently. I'm not interested in clickbait narratives, she said coolly. I don't blame you, he replied. But if you want your voice heard uncut, we'd feature you in your own words. She paused, then took his card. If I speak, she said, I'll choose the language. A local paper reporter texts, covering town hero versus heel narrative. Can we include you? They expected humility. They got headlines. Mother outshines her daughter's wedding. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning, nestled between a city council scandal and a summer heat advisory. But it didn't stay quiet for long. Venue mom. When a mother buys the wedding venue and rewrites the guest list. Byline, Michael Torres, Charlottesville Herald. It was respectful, nuanced, and unflinching. Evelyn's quotes landed with grace, but also steel. I wasn't trying to ruin her day. I was trying to reclaim my place in it. This wasn't revenge. It was recognition of my motherhood, my silence, my years of showing up quietly and being left out loudly. Within hours, the hashtag Venue Mom trended on local social feeds. By noon, it crossed into Facebook wedding groups, Reddit family drama threads, and eventually inevitably Twitter. Some praised her, a quiet icon. That daughter will thank her one day. This is the most powerful boundary setting I've ever read. Others condemned her, pedant, trolling, narcissistic. Just attend the wedding like a normal mom and stop stealing thunder. But Evelyn didn't reply, not once. Instead, she focused on what she could control. That weekend, the Ravenshire Garden hosted its first official event under her ownership, an open house charity brunch, featuring local chefs, artists, and book drives for Twin Oaks. The venue had never felt more alive. Children ran across the lawn chasing bubbles. Jazz played softly beneath the archway. Elderly couples smiled under linen umbrellas. A former student from Evelyn's literacy circle hugged her with damp eyes. "You're doing something that matters." The comment book filled quickly. "Thank you for turning pain into purpose. This place already feels like a legacy." Evelyn stood at the head of the courtyard and spoke briefly, her voice clear over the mic. "Love is hospitality, but dignity is non-negotiable." The crowd applauded, not like fans, but like people who'd heard truth and recognized its rhythm. She was in the kitchen overseeing cleanup when Lorraine peeked her head in. "There's someone here," she said softly, asking for. Evelyn wiped her hands and stepped out, only to freeze at the sight. Dorothea, Bianca's paternal grandmother. She stood at the gate, purse clutched in front of her, hat slightly crooked from the wind. Her posture was careful, almost humble. "Dorothea," Evelyn said, surprised. "You came." "I watched the live stream," Dorothea replied, "and I read the article. I wanted to see it for myself." Evelyn gestured toward the garden. "Well, this is it. No dress rehearsals." Dorothea nodded. "You've done something remarkable here. I misjudged you. Years ago, I interfered when I should have listened." Evelyn folded her arms not defensively, just firm. "You helped raise a woman who tried to erase another. That didn't happen in a vacuum." "I know," Dorothea said. "That's why I'm here, not to fix everything, just to offer a different way forward." For a moment, they stood in silence, two matriarchs, seasoned by years, both carrying the consequences of silence, pride, and missed bridges. "Come in," Evelyn finally said. "But on my terms." "Of course," Dorothea replied. "Honesty, boundaries." Evelyn smiled faintly. "That's the dress code around here." As they walked in together, Evelyn couldn't help but glance back toward the tree-lined drive, where everything had started, and where, perhaps, something else was starting now. A visit request from Bianca's grandmother, Dorothea. "She wants to mend." Judith's daughter-in-law broke protocols, and Dorothea crossed lines for reconciliation. Dorothea came again the next week, this time with a hand-drawn map of the venue, marked with delicate circles. "These were the old rose beds," she said, tapping the edge of the paper with her knuckle. "My garden club used to meet here in the 70s. Evelyn poured her tea and nodded. "Then they'll bloom again, if you help replant them." Dorothea smiled, less pride, more relief. She wasn't there to claim space. She was there to contribute. They walked the grounds for over an hour, talking about soil acidity, stonework wear, and seasonal fundraisers. The space felt different with Dorothea beside her, not because she softened it, but because she honored it. "I owe you a second kind of apology," Dorothea said as they reached the back terrace. "I didn't just misjudge you. I helped raise someone who doesn't know how to share power." "You mean Bianca?" Evelyn said quietly. Dorothea nodded. "And Jude." There it was, spoken aloud, finally. Dorothea pulled out her phone and showed Evelyn a thread of messages between Miranda, the former wedding planner, and Judith. Messages that hadn't been shared in court. They coordinated more than just a seating chart. Dorothea said, "Judith wanted your family removed from all mentions." She called it simplifying the narrative. Miranda refused. That's when things started breaking down. Evelyn took the phone and read every word. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Systematic sidelining. Not just Evelyn, but her side of the family. Her father, her name. She erased me from paper before Bianca ever hit send on that live stream link, Evelyn whispered. And Bianca didn't stop her, Dorothea added. No, Evelyn said, handing back the phone. But now I can. They stood quietly for a moment, until Dorothea cleared her throat. I'd like to help manage the fall series here, she said gently. If you'll have me, I've been retired too long, and this place feels like the right kind of busy. Evelyn looked out over the courtyard. As long as we're clear, this isn't a bridge back to Judith. It's not, Dorothea said. It's a branch forward. On your terms. Evelyn smiled faintly. Then you're hired. That evening, as twilight crept over the hedges, Evelyn received a formal court notification. Interim ruling. Ravenshire venue usage for Levinson Harmon wedding approved. Conditions: owner shall be recognized in all ceremony materials. Front row seating required for E. Harmon. Her eyes scanned the final line twice. Owner shall not be excluded from any visual representation or narrative of the event. She closed the letter slowly. It wasn't just about attendance anymore. It was about truth enshrined in ink, not just memory. Then her phone buzzed with a new message. Carter, formal invite to follow, but would you walk me down the aisle? No emoji, no fluff, just one man asking the woman who'd raised him, not as a stand-in, but as someone irreplaceable. Evelyn receives a formal invitation from Carter. Please walk me down the aisle. He asked me to escort him, not to steal his day, just to hold his hand. Evelyn stared at her phone long after the screen dimmed. She could still feel the words, "Would you walk me down the aisle?" etched into the quiet. It wasn't performative. It wasn't posted or publicized. It was a private, pulseless message typed by a man not looking to make a scene, but to repair one. She sat down at the edge of her bed, pressed the phone to her chest, and let the moment settle into her bones. Then she called him. Carter answered on the first ring. Hi. You're Evelyn asked. This won't be taken as some act of defiance. I don't care how it's taken anymore, he said. Bianca and I are still figuring things out, but this part matters to me. You were there when no one else was. I'd like you by my side when I step forward. Evelyn exhaled. And the terms. Inclusivity, he said. Clarity. And respect for Mum. He didn't say my mum, he said Mum, the way Evelyn had taught him, when his own mother had been more shadow than shelter. Then yes, she said softly, I'll walk with you. Later that day, she received the formal invitation. This time it was handwritten, pressed into ivory cardstock with embossed vines. No links, no live streams. Inside was a note from Carter. Please walk with me halfway. Bianca's father will meet us at the altar. I think that says what we all need. Evelyn touched the paper for a moment, then set it gently beside the old invitation, the one with the live stream link. The contrast made her throat tighten. By that evening, the wedding planner reached out. Miranda, humbled and cautious, offered Evelyn the option to coordinate independently. You'll have vendor status, she said. Not oversight, just inclusion. You can contribute details but not override decisions. Evelyn replied with one line. That's all I ever want. She forwarded the contract to Lorraine. Vendor status? Lorraine asked over coffee. That's a poetic downgrade. I don't need title, Evelyn replied. I need truth. The next day, a soft pink RSVP envelope arrived in Evelyn's mailbox. No message. No signature. Just the box checked. Attending. Sender. Bianca Harmon. Evelyn turned the card over once, searching for something else, maybe a line of warmth. A scribbled apology. But it was empty. She slid it into a drawer without comment. Later that night, as they sat on Evelyn's porch watching thunderheads move like opera across the sky, Lorraine leaned back with her glass of wine. She's not ready to say it yet, she murmured. Say what? That you created a space for connection, not collision. Evelyn smiled faintly, eyes tracking the storm. I didn't build the bridge, she said, but I left the gate open. The next morning, a rehearsal email arrived, attached the schedule, seating chart, and ceremony flow. And at the very bottom, in clear block type, escort Harmon, Neil roll, walk groom half distance to altar. Evelyn reread it twice. It didn't scream approval or praise, but it spelled presence. Evelyn receives rehearsal schedule, her name listed as escort. They expect tension. I cultivated elegance. The rehearsal dinner unfolded beneath golden string lights and late summer skies. Evelyn arrived 5 minutes early, dressed in a charcoal silk wrap and low heels. Not overdressed, not understated, just exact. She'd chosen not to bring anyone. No Lorraine, no James, just herself. Her presence didn't need backup. It was the statement. The venue hummed with cautious energy. Staff moved like chess pieces. The sound crew adjusted levels. The florist clipped brown petals. Evelyn walked through it all calmly, each step deliberate. Tables were separated intentionally. Family on one side, friends on the other. Her name card had its own table, beside the planners and vendors. It was a political placement, but she didn't flinch. Bianca arrived late as expected. Her dress was flawless, sea glass green and fit. She scanned the lawn, eyes landing briefly on Evelyn before drifting away. They didn't speak. Carter approached soon after, tie half done, nerves obvious in his shoulders. "Hey," he said, gently adjusting his cufflinks. "You look strong." "I am," Evelyn replied. He exhaled, then gestured toward the sound booth. "Miranda wants to run a final check." They walked across the gravel path together. Miranda greeted her without the false polish of earlier weeks. "We'll cue the processional now," she said. "Carter, we'll start with you and Evelyn." As the music floated from the speakers, an instrumental, modern but warm, Evelyn linked her arm through Carter's and stepped into the aisle. Guests watched, phones stayed away. For once the moment wasn't about optics. "You good?" Carter whispered. "I'm not a prop," she said softly. "I'm your past, walking you toward your future." He nodded, eyes glistening. They reached halfway, where Bianca's father waited under the arch. Carter gave Evelyn's hand a quiet squeeze before stepping forward. As she turned, a small voice behind her said, "Grandma, is that your bench?" Two children, nieces, she assumed, had wandered toward the row of antique pews Evelyn had had restored from the venue's original chapel. She smiled. "Yes," she said, "and it's yours now too." Inside, while reviewing Livestream settings on her tablet, Evelyn overheard someone whisper behind her, "I heard she owns the place now." She turned to see a woman in a mauve dress, surprised by Evelyn's direct gaze. "It's true," Evelyn said politely, "but I don't own the just the space. Big difference." The woman flushed. "I didn't mean." "It's all right," Evelyn said. "You're not the first to confuse presence with control." Later, while the planner made final adjustments to floral arrangements, a problem arose. Bianca's bouquet had wilted in the heat. Miranda looked panicked. "This isn't what she approved. She'll notice." Evelyn paused. "I have extras in cold storage for the brunch next week." "You'd offer them?" "She'll never ask." But yes, they quietly swapped the florals. No drama, no announcement. As night fell and chairs were folded away, Evelyn lingered under the oak trees. She pulled out her phone to review the live stream dashboard, and paused. Someone was already logged in. Viewer, private, unidentified device, location, unknown. She refreshed the feed. The user stayed active, watching, silent. A second later, the comment feed blinked. How poetic, controlling from the shadows. Username, Lauren, H22. At night, Evelyn glances at the live stream open on her phone and someone logs in remotely. The live stream link was leaked, and the comment feed turned venomous. By morning, the comment thread had multiplied like rock. Evelyn stared at her screen as insults stacked like bricks in a wall meant to push her out again. "This lady's off her rocker. She bought the venue just to flex." Classic narcissist move. Let the bride have her damn day. But it wasn't the faceless usernames that stuck. It was one that wasn't faceless at all. Lauren H22. Nice payback, mom. Real mature. Lauren, Carter's sister. Evelyn's niece by marriage. The woman who'd once spent Thanksgiving curled up at Evelyn's side after her divorce, sobbing into a cup of cider. Now, weaponizing a live stream link from a burner account. Evelyn took a slow breath. She wasn't surprised. Just tired. She texted Lorraine. "Evelyn, live stream's been compromised. Comments turning toxic." Lorraine, on it. Already flagged to the platform. "I'll run digital trace with moderation team." Within an hour, 3 moderators had joined the back end. The viewer count was surging, mostly lurkers, some trolls. The link had clearly spread beyond invited guests. Someone had shared it to a gossip forum, or Reddit wedding drama thread. Evelyn watched, numb, as a new comment popped up. "Venue mom? More like venue monster. She's the villain in her daughter's wedding movie. She closed the laptop slowly. Then in the sunlit sitting room of the venue. Evelyn took a deep breath and walked to the foyer, where a photographer was setting up welcome signage. She gently interrupted. Would you mind taking a picture of me here? The woman blinked, then nodded. Sure. Any specific angle? Yes, Evelyn said. Front and center. I want people to see me standing, not hiding. After the click, she uploaded the photo directly to her professional page, captioned, I've read your comments. I've seen the assumptions. So here's mine. Kindness isn't revenge. It's a decision, and I've made mine. Presence is not control. Venue mom. Within hours, messages flooded in from mothers, caretakers, estranged daughters, even strangers. I watched my daughter marry through a live stream too. You're not alone. Thank you for showing grace in public. Your silence has been louder than their noise. Evelyn didn't cry. Not then. But when she saw the message from a woman named Diane, a hospice nurse who'd followed her story, she let herself feel the weight. My mother died last year. She spent her final days asking if I still loved her, even though we hadn't spoken in a decade. I wish we'd had what you and your daughter still could. Bianca didn't respond to the post, but Evelyn noticed she unliked Carter's latest wedding announcement and removed 3 tagged photos from her profile, ones featuring Judith, Carter's mother. The lines were shifting again. That night, Evelyn updated her legal document. She opened her digital end-of-life plan, something she'd curated over the past year, and removed Lauren Levinson from all roles: beneficiary, speaker, coordinator. She listed Lorraine instead. Her will was not an act of anger. It was clarity, a final line of protection. The next morning, Evelyn's doorbell rang. A courier handed her a certified envelope. She opened it in the foyer, heart steady. Subject, emergency motion, petition to suspend or terminate livestream access, filed, Levinson Harmon Viora. Morning, brings court notice. Emergency hearing on livestream takedown. They called it a public disturbance. I called it preserving my peace. The courtroom lights were merciless. Bright, clinical, indifferent. Evelyn sat in the witness row, hands folded in her lap, while opposing counsel launched into their opening salvo. Your Honor, the live stream has become a public spectacle. It has escalated tensions within the family, generated reputational harm, and exposed private events to mass ridicule. Judge Mendelsohn raised an eyebrow. It was the petitioners who requested public streaming in the first place. Correct? Carter didn't speak. Bianca stared straight ahead. Their attorney adjusted his collar. Yes, but under the assumption it would remain private, which it didn't. Evelyn added, calm and clear, because they leaked it. The judge turned to her. Do you have evidence supporting that? Evelyn rose. Lorraine stepped forward from the gallery, handing the judge a printed log of back-end access data, moderator reports, and the burner account traced to Lauren H22 confirmed via linked recovery email addresses and shared IP logs. Your Honor, Lorraine said, steady and direct. The troll activity originated from someone close to the plaintiffs, not from the defendant. The judge scanned the report. He looked up. Lauren Levinson. Carter's face collapsed with shame. I didn't know. Bianca's lips tightened, but she didn't object. Judge Mendelsohn sighed. I see no reason to punish a respondent who was targeted through a system she didn't design. This isn't about technology. It's about control and optics. He turned to Evelyn. Would you agree to a moderated feed, limited access, and closed comment threads? This way community guests and remote family may still view the event, but not weaponize it. Evelyn nodded. Yes, Your Honor. I've never objected to being seen, only to being erased. Mendelsohn leaned back. Then the court will uphold livestream access under one condition. All parties must agree that no person, parent, partner, or planner may be visually or narratively excluded. Bianca stiffened. That's a violation of our personal discretion. It's an invitation to reality. The judge interrupted. If you want a public ceremony, then you must accept the people who helped shape your life. A long silence followed. Then Carter, voice soft, said, Bianca didn't respond. After the hearing, Evelyn stepped into the hallway to breathe. Her heart wasn't racing, but her ribs felt tight as though something had broken loose inside and hadn't quite landed. Carter joined her. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, staring at the floor tiles. I didn't know about Lauren, he finally said. If I had, you would have defended her. Evelyn said. Not bitter, just honest. He looked up. Maybe. But I would have regretted it. She nodded. Then Dorothea approached. She placed a folded paper in Evelyn's hand. I said I was done keeping secrets, she whispered. Inside was an old email, dated 7 years ago, from Judith to Bianca. Subject, your mother is a liability. Don't let her rewrite your story. Evelyn read it once, and then again. So much of the exclusion, the coldness, the distance, it hadn't just grown out of stress or misunderstanding. It had been planted, long before Bianca had even said the word Livestream. You deserved better, Dorothea said. I'm sorry I didn't speak then. Evelyn slipped the paper into her bag. You're speaking now. That matters more. As they stepped outside, a breeze cut across the courthouse steps. Evelyn paused, face lifted to the wind, eyes closed. It didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like equilibrium. Then Bianca emerged from the building. Without a word, she approached Evelyn and placed a small unmarked envelope in her hand. No eye contact, no explanation, just the soft thud of sincerity, handed over in silence. Bianca slips Evelyn an envelope after court unmarked. She handed an apology, then asked for space to rebuild. I offered both. The envelope was plain. No embossing, no initials, just Evelyn's name, handwritten in a script she hadn't seen since birthday cards in middle school. Bianca's careful slanted cursive, softened by effort. She opened it slowly in her study, the venue quiet except for the wind tapping gently at the windows. Inside was a folded note and a smaller envelope marked reimbursement proposal. The letter read, Mom, you were right about more than I'll ever admit out loud. Judith told me years ago that being selective with family was how I'd protect my image. I believed her. I buried you in that belief. I didn't just erase you. I erased the parts of myself that knew better. I'm sorry. Enclosed is a plan. You won't find perfect language, but you'll find map. I want to rebuild, not just money, but meaning. No cameras, no posts, just space. Evelyn read the letter 3 times, the first time through tears, the second through silence, the third with clarity. She opened the reimbursement envelope. Inside was a proposed check amount, equal to the original trust allocation Bianca had forfeited. Accompanying it was a typed note. I've separated this from any wedding expenses. This is not guilt money. It's what was once meant to support a future I pushed you out. Please reassign as you see fit. Evelyn didn't rush to respond. Instead, she stood and walked through the sunlit venue, the walls echoing with the kind of quiet that follows deep repair. That afternoon, she met with Lorraine on the terrace. She apologized, Evelyn said, sliding over the note. Lorraine read it, then nodded. That's not performative. That's work. She wants space. You can give her that. Evelyn looked out across the garden, then back at the paper in her hand. I want one thing. A moment. Not for drama. For closure. That night, Evelyn emailed the planner Miranda. I'd like a brief speaking moment during the ceremony. Not a toast. Not a spotlight. Just acknowledgement. Miranda replied within the hour. Approved. Slotted for pre-vows welcome remarks. The next day, Evelyn met with Carter at the courthouse cafe. He sat across from her, shoulders hunched, eyes softer than they'd been in months. She told me you didn't yell, he said. I didn't need to. He smiled faintly. You've taught me more about love in the past few months than anyone ever did growing up. Evelyn sipped her tea. Love without boundaries is just silence in disguise. They didn't speak for a while after that. They didn't need to. Then the final twist came. Quietly, through the court clerk's email. Subject, order Livestream modifications. Equal representation clause. Final directive. Livestream must be managed under dual ownership protocol. Evelyn Harmon shall have co-moderation rights to the public stream, with controls over image framing, captions, and access. Purpose. Balance. Not bias. Mandated. Full documentation of ceremony, inclusive of both families. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. Her presence had been denied, debated, litigated, and now legally validated. She wasn't a guest anymore. She was part of the lens itself. The morning of the wedding was close now. She opened the grand mirror in the venue foyer, the one she'd had restored for the brunch. It reflected more than her face. It reflected the distance she'd walked, the woman she'd rebuilt, the parts she never surrendered. even when she was told to livestream her own erasure. Major twist Jun 3. Judge issues final directive. Evelyn's livestream will represent both sides equally. Broader control for fairness. The final wedding day opens, and Evelyn stands at the altar's edge. They said I'd watch them from afar. I walked in before vows by invitation, not by chance. The morning arrived quietly. No fanfare, no drama, just light spilling through the windows of Ravenshire Garden, touching everything Evelyn had rebuilt with silence, steel and grace. She dressed deliberately, navy silk, pearls, low heels that wouldn't echo too loud. She wasn't there to make noise, only to be there. In the bridal suite, Bianca stood at the mirror, fussing with her veil. Evelyn didn't enter. She didn't ask. She passed by the open door, catching only a brief glance. A nod between two women who knew war and peace both lived under the same skin. At the garden path, Carter waited, hands trembling slightly at his sides. You ready? Evelyn asked gently. I think so, he said. But, would you say something? Before we walk? She placed a hand on his arm. This isn't about erasing the past, Carter. It's about honoring the people who walked it with you. He nodded, blinking fast. You always knew how to hold the heavy stuff. You made it easier to carry. The music began, strings and soft chords drifting under the canopy of willow leaves. Evelyn looped her arm through Carter's and stepped onto the aisle. Gasps whispered from the crowd, but not judgmental, more reverent. A few guests even smiled. As they walked, the livestream panned gently, not with spectacle, but balance. Evelyn's co-moderation settings made sure of it. No framing out, no side angles that cut her off. At the halfway point, Bianca's father stood waiting. Evelyn released Carter's arm with grace, kissed his cheek, and stepped back right to the front row seat, marked with a calligraphed card, Mother of the Groom. She sat down, not in the shadows, not in protest. In place, the vows began. Bianca's voice trembled slightly, as she read from her note card. Carter, I've learned the shape of love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it draws lines before it draws hearts. Carter took his turn, looking out briefly, eyes locking with Evelyn. Evelyn, he said, voice loud enough for all to hear. Thank you for holding my hand from childhood to commitment. Murmurs rippled across the lawn. A few tears. Even Bianca dabbed her eyes discreetly. The ceremony closed with applause. Not roar, just honest palms meeting in a rhythm of shared breath. Afterward, in the reception hall, Bianca approached Evelyn slowly. She didn't hold out her arms. She didn't rush. She simply said, thank you for teaching me what love looks like when it doesn't leave. Evelyn looked at her daughter, really looked. You taught me too, she said. That silence isn't always strength, and absence isn't always accidental. They hugged. Brief. Real. Guests passed by whispering things. Evelyn never needed, but quietly appreciated. What a moment, a real matriarch. She didn't just attend. She anchored it. As sparklers lit up the evening air and Carter and Bianca walked under the archway, Evelyn stood in the garden, backlit by the soft gold glow of dusk. Then slowly, she turned toward the venue. Inside, the grand mirror waited, her reflection now steady, sovereign, undeniable. She walked in alone, paused before the glass, and whispered, I was never too much. I was just never meant to be small. Her own image stared back, not the image others tried to erase, not the one they offered live streams for, but the one who reclaimed the room. Fade on Evelyn's solo reflection in the venue's grand mirror. Unmistakable proof she fits no image but gives one.